So none of you guys know, he survived probably the worst car wreck in F1. Your car split in two. You hit like a metal.
Yeah, I went under the guardrails. The car split in two. The fuel tank got open, and there's about 250 pounds, of fuel burning. So I got stuck in there for a bit. But I'm hard to cook, so you know.
Let's bring out CEO of Spring Hill Company, Maverick Carter, and the co-creator of the shop, Paul Rivera.
Thank you for coming. Really appreciate you. This is first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix. And look at us, P. Look, we're here.
I love it. We have some more guests coming. Let's get them out here.
Yes, we do. So now let's welcome our special guest. Our first one up is Grammy Award winner, Diplo. Come on.
Sure, for sure.
Dip, what's up, brother? I love those pants, by the way.
Let's bring out our next guest, Grammy-nominated multi-platinum producer and artist, French Montana. Come on.
Montana. How you doing, French? You good?
Good morning.
Good morning. You looking good.
Last but not least, we have former F1 driver, Romain Grosjean. Give it up, everyone.
Yes, sir. Woo. Romain, how you doing, man?
Good, thanks. You?
Doing great. Well, thank you all for being on the shop. I mean, we're fortunate enough to take this show, had lots and lots of guests, but this one's very special. First off, this is the first one we've ever done outside. The first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix. Our partners, by the way, thanks to Lexus, MGM, for hosting us, and thank you to this wonderful crowd that came out first thing this morning to listen to us chop it up.
Yeah.
We're sitting here with two multi-Grammy nominated and big artists and an athlete, right? When you guys look at these big sporting events as musicians, do you look at them as like, that is a moment, a weekend where I can go clean up and make some money and being at a sporting event and something's cool?
I'm going to say Super Bowl especially has like overpassed New Year's Eve now.
Super Bowl, the biggest moneymaker.
Yeah,
That's what Meek was saying.
Wow.
And I think me and French actually have a huge like sporting event hit called Welcome to the Party. So we always see the power of, it was like the Lakers walkout song for 3 years. And Meek has one of the biggest sports anthems of all time, Your Dreams and Nightmares. So we know the power of sports music and energy and parties. But F1 being introduced to America like in a huge way this last 3 years, this is like a special place to have it. And they have the infrastructure. Look at this. They built all these things in like 4 hours.
It's
no
crazy.
other city can do that, I feel like.
It's crazy. And French, when you come to these big sporting events, how do you choose which events, like, book me for that, not that? How do you think about it? Is it just which one is paying me the most money?
Yeah, that. I mean, usually it's better.
He said, yeah.
Hard stop. That.
But usually when it's a combination, because we've been to a lot of these in Abu Dhabi, so we kind of familiar with it. But once we heard it was in Vegas, we was like, it's gonna be a moment because it's the first time. And I lived in Vegas for like the past 7 years, so I'm like, I want to be a part of it, But besides this, I think the only thing that's probably even more dope is the World Cup. And that was a crazy moment, and that one we look forward to for every 4 years. That one come like the lotto.
Exactly.
I'm over here laughing because Dip and French are talking about parties and this and that, and Roman was like, "What? Like you didn't even know those parties happening? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you come here to work, like."
For me, it's too late. I wish at 9 p.m. I was in bed.
As an athlete, how do you stay focused through all this madness that's going on around you? Because you got to stay in a hotel. You see people. You know that. How do you stay focused on what you got to do at race day?
It's tough, but it's a learning curve for Formula One for the drivers. We used to go to Monaco, and Monaco is the party city of the Formula One, and there's a lot of people that come there and they just for party. And as a driver, you just want to stay focused on a race weekend. Same thing here. The timing is difficult for the drivers. Everything is late at night, and that makes it quite tricky. And then there's a big difference. But I think it's. I've been living in the US for the last 2 years and understand a little bit more the culture and the sport in the US and the fact that the show is a big part of it. And that's what Formula One is doing right. And when I heard Vegas was coming in the calendar, I was like, I'm gonna go there.
Yeah, and obviously as a now Indy, but then before F1 for many years, and I think you were on the podium 12 times?
10.
10 times. Let's give it up for that, by the way. It's a big deal. You've been all over the world racing. Does anybody do it? The American style is different than everywhere else, right? Is America the biggest party, the biggest event, make it the biggest spectacle?
I think, every country has got a different culture. Like if we go to Japan, the fans are so dedicated just to the racing. It's all about the racing and there's no party around it. In the US, obviously, depends the city you go to. But, when you talk about Miami, Austin, and Vegas, they're great cities. There's great atmosphere. There's good parties. And as those guys were saying, we're here in the middle of a crazy city. It's, it's my first time here, and I can see the Eiffel Tower. I almost feel home. Thanks for choosing the spot.
Exactly. Yeah, we wanted you to feel comfortable.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Yeah, but in the States they make racing sound like going to the club in Vegas. It's like what time is the racing? It's like 1 a.m. After we go to the club.
After we go, exactly.
I do want to stay on Vegas for a little bit, right? Vegas has always been known as, entertainment, casinos, all of that stuff. But it feels like in the last couple of years, we'll call it, you see what the Las Vegas Aces, right? WNBA back-to-back champions. Give it up for them.
Give it up.
Congrats to the Aces.
The Raiders' beautiful stadium they have just down the street. The hockey team. They just announced the
champions.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, NHL champions.
Yes, been the best team in the league for a couple of years.
For sure. They just announced the A's, I think yesterday, that are coming. Has Vegas catapulted the New Yorks, the LAs of the world as the sports and entertainment capital?
I mean, the teams are very supported here. The Raiders have always had fans all over. They're like probably I think they sell more merch than any other football team.
The Cowboys. They've been the Cowboys.
But they're up there, so people love to support that team. And they have a club in the stadium here. They have the Winfield Club, and I played that, so people know the party vibe of it. But I went to my first hockey game here, and I was like, it's crazy. Like there's girls in bikinis shaving the ice around the thing, and projection on the ice. And
that's so Vegas.
They went to the finals in the first year as an expansion team. That's never happened before.
It never happened, yeah.
And they love it. That every game is sold out. And this is in the middle of the desert.
And for you as a DJ, Dip, has this become obviously all over you? DJs, you guys have audiences all over the world. There's Ibiza, there's south of France, there's Vegas, there's Sydney, there's everywhere. Is Vegas the number one town still for DJs to really work and get the job done?
I think in America it is the number one town just as far as the scope of the clubs. And then, you go to a club like XS or Hakkasan, the clubs are better than any other club in America. And there's 6 or 7 super clubs here, and they have the best DJs in the world all come here for the residencies, There's different scenes, like Ibiza's a more underground scene, but here you have just the production scale is so big and so massive, and the service industry here is top notch. It's the best in the world, so you always get what you want.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to the service people in Vegas. Thank them all.
Sure. Dip, for you, worldly traveler, I think lived in India even for a little bit, right, early on. Was there a moment that you're like, oh, I made it? Is it seeing your face on a billboard here? Is it getting a residency? Is it selling out a tour? Is it an album? What was the first moment that you're like, oh shit, this is the thing?
You lived in India?
Yeah, I lived in India when I was 20 for a year. That changed my life. Just as a young person, to put yourself in a place where you're not shit. You don't know much about the world, and to have to integrate yourself into a city. I was living in Gujarat, way in the desert, and I was working in. I think that was the most amazing choice I made as a young person, just to travel, and then get my life experience up. And then as I got older, I didn't really start DJing professionally until I was in my mid-20s. It was a hobby. I had a job. I was a school teacher till I was 24. And I was like, I need to figure something else out. And it's great, though, when you start working in something creative as a grown person, you saw all the ways you know how to pay your rent now. You know how to deal with people. It's better than being a young person and having to acclimate, socially. So I got lucky as that, I got older and I started my career, but I feel like I've ever made it? I feel like, no. I feel like I'm always looking to see what I can do more. I don't feel like if I did that, I would probably retire, I think I always want to do more. I always want to do better and see more things and see what else I can push in this industry. If any young person's there, I say, even before you go to college, travel, go see things, it'll change their mindset.
I'm still stuck on, there are kids around the world that are still That's Mr. Diplo, right? He's DJing now.
Yeah,
Like,
it's Mr. West. That's what they call me. In
There
fact,
goes my teacher.
no, I'll tell you a story.
Have any of them showed up at your parties?
2 years ago at the Grammys, the Bar Marmont had a party, and the door guy, I was living in Philly. He was like one of my students, and he recognized me, the door guy, because that was like 20 years ago. And I was like, bro, you're really? I couldn't believe you made it out of Philly
What
for
subject
once.
did you
I was
teach?
like,
What subject did you teach?
it was like an after-school program, so kids were between 8 and 13. Like they didn't have places to go at home, or they didn't read very well, or they needed like something extracurricular. So I did whatever I needed to do. We
That's
made
awesome.
art projects. We went on little trips. But I mean, working in Philly, working in like this, I was like more of a social worker than anything. It was tough, man. And I think
incredible.
leaving there, learning about that, I love Philadelphia. I wouldn't be in any other city. That's where I started my career, and I think you got to cut your teeth there. It's a tough city.
For sure. We've been talking a lot about, travel and global and getting, worldly experiences. French, you, global. I believe you speak 3 languages. Just came out with your doc for Khadijah. Congrats on that.
Thank you,
It's on
thank
your
you.
doc. Congrats on that.
How much of an influence has the world been on your music and just your life and your creativity?
I think it got everything to do with it. I was born in North Africa, Morocco, and I came here when I was like 13. I ain't know no English, and I just like kind of picked the hardest job to do was to rap.
I don't know English, but I'm gonna try this rap thing.
Then I landed in the Bronx, and the Bronx, is the mecca of hip hop. So it's like going to Chicago Bulls in '96 when Michael Jordan is playing. You're like, yo, you know what? I feel like playing with the team. So everybody out there in the Bronx, it's just like, you got Fat Joe here, you got Slick Rick here, you got, Big Pun, you got everybody that made hip hop over there. So it was kind of a struggle at first, well, for a long time, because as soon as you come outside, you say you rap, everybody like, let's battle then. So it was like a long hassle of that, and but just coming from Morocco here, like the culture shock and basically just like a whole different lifestyle, because coming from like another country is already a big obstacle to overcome. You know what I'm saying? Then when you get there, then you got to overcome everything else. So it was definitely an adventure.
Dope. And Roman, I wanted to ask you, if respectfully, if Diplo has a bad show, it's a bad show. I'll have a better one tomorrow. And if French has a bad show, if you have a bad showing, the consequences are immediately very different and very real. Is that on your mind when you step into that car every race?
I think you're conscious of the risk and what's involved in motorsport, and I had that experience end of 2020, a big crash, big fire.
Yeah, when was that, by the way?
That was
2020?
Bahrain, Bahrain 2020.
So none of you guys know, he survived probably the worst car wreck in F1. Your car split in two. You hit like a metal.
Yeah, I went under the guardrails. The car split in two. The fuel tank got open, and
the
there's
car
about
the car caught on
250
fire?
pounds, of fuel burning. So I got stuck in there for a bit. But I'm hard to cook, so
And you were conscious the whole time, right?
I think that's something that no one can really explain why I didn't lose consciousness. But if I had, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So, that day everything went really well as it could get into that tough moment, and made it out of the car. But changed the life. Almost died in that car, but since then I really enjoy life a lot more. I enjoy time with my kids and yes, I mean, here, the guy's going to do 350 kph. That's 210, 220 miles down the strip. Luckily, there's no traffic, and radar control. But it is part of what we do. And the cars are as safe as it gets. But yes, motorsport is dangerous. And we know it, but it's also part of the adrenaline and what we love.
And what inspired you to get back in a race car? Any kind of. I don't know if I would have gotten any car after that. But also, were you hesitant at first to go back at it?
No. I just straight away I wanted to be back in a car, and I was in the hospital in Bahrain, and we had. So it was the last 3 races in Formula One. It was going to be my last 3 races anyway. So we had Bahrain 1, and then the week after Bahrain, and the week after Abu Dhabi, and I knew I couldn't make Bahrain 2 because it was only 5 days after my accident. But I tried as much as I could to go to Abu Dhabi, and. Everyone was like, you should stop racing, you should retire and talk with my wife and my kids. And I told my wife, do you want a grumpy husband for the rest of your life, or do you want a husband that's going and do risky stuff? And she took the risky stuff because I'm not a good grumpy guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't get in an Uber.
Savage.
Yeah, it's no
Yeah,
shit.
like I literally would not get in an Uber. And obviously, you just mentioned driving 220 miles an hour. I mean, they're like fighter jets, you know, on wheels. Like, how much challenging is that for these racers?
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge. You know, those guys are driving at the best, 100% every lap. The track is pretty tricky. The conditions it's cold in the night, so the tires are hard to get to work, and there's those long straight line, big braking zone. So for sure, it's gonna be a challenge for the guys. But that's their job. You know, imagine there's only 20 guys in the world doing Formula One. I think there's more guys going into space than there's guys driving Formula One cars. So
Wow.
you know, they're the best of the best.
Wow. And if Diplo and French got in cars, who's your money on tonight?
Man, I don't know. I haven't seen them driving yet. So maybe Diplo was born in Daytona. So it is.
Yeah, we got the
What?
NASCAR, baby.
And Romain, the question everybody wants to know, I think everybody gives this different answer. Is it the driver of the car, or how much to each one? Really, tell us.
Man, it's 98% the car, 2% the driver.
Really?
Imagine the pyramid when you get to the top 20 guys in the world from everyone that race karts, go-karts, anything at the bottom, and then you get to the top of the top Formula One, and 20 guys. So obviously those guys are super fast, but yeah, it's the car.
Got it. That's amazing, Romain. And French, you're actually, I was reading, the most streamed, basically biggest African-born artist ever. But obviously Afrobeats is taking off, right? And to Diplo's point, you're an international superstar, a star all over the world. But talk to us about, like, because I love, my favorite artist this year has been Tim's. Afrobeats, that sound that seems to be spreading all over the globe. How do you think about it? And you probably heard it long before any of us did, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I heard the sound coming like years and years ago, but I never really, because I started with hip hop, so that transition was kind of risky when I did it, because nobody was doing Afro back then. So when we did Unforgettable, which is probably like the biggest Afro record to ever come out, so that was like
Talk your shit, French.
So
There you go. Yeah.
So that was like the first time, you know, I took a stab at it. Me and Sway Lee shot the Sway Lee. And it just worked, and it just clicked. And I think that one right there probably kind of opened the doors at first. Shout out to DeVito, shout out to WizKid, Tim's, and there's a whole generation coming up on Afro music.
I love that. Can I ask both of you, Diplo, French, do genres even matter today?
Nah, not anymore. It does for radio. It does for people that maybe make playlists. But when it comes to actual creators like us, I think French is always, he could speak for himself, but when he makes his greatest records is when he takes a chance. Like when he did Unforgettable, or when he did, Welcome to the Party, or when he does, he can speak more on it, but he knows that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you got to take a chance, especially for DJs. You want to be known as a DJ that, like, oh, he put me on to that new record. Not like, you know what I'm saying? Especially when you play ball, when you do whatever it is. Like, I just seen Vince Carter take off from free throw and windmilled it on his head and this and that.
Vince Carter from Daytona Beach, by the way.
And when you take that chance, walk in the studio, do you just walk in the studio? Is it a producer? Who helps you get to taking that chance? Is it the producer making the record a lot of times?
I don't think nobody helps you take that chance. I think that chance comes from you, because everybody in there is so scared to tell you to take that chance. Then if you fall on your face, that's the worst position to be in. You know what I'm saying? So you want to take that chance yourself. If I didn't take the chance, I would have never had a diamond record.
Roman, I wanted to ask you, was it last year that basically the salary cap was implemented? Or was it last year, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago? Why was that necessary?
And give us a little explanation of it for those of us that don't understand it totally.
So 2 years ago, Formula One made one of the best decisions they made over the last 20 years. I think they budget capped the team. So you had the top team spending $500-600 million a year to go racing with only 2 cars, and you had the smaller team being at $80-100 million. So you cannot compete with someone that spends 6 times more than you do. So they came with the idea of a budget cap. Obviously, it was a big fight between the big team and the small team. They're 135 million right now, I think. Per season, there's exception. So the driver's salary is not in there. The top 3 salary of the factory are not in there. I think the marketing and some more, there's things that you don't count. But it brings the field more together. And it brings the fact that you cannot develop the car as much as you want. You cannot spend as much as you want on the car. And, some of the factory were more than 1,000 people just to build basically one car that replicates times two, and you go around the world. So obviously that was a big thing, and that happened a couple of years ago. It's gonna take some time to really bring us where we want to be.
And that idea that each team has two drivers, but really you're on the team. You wear the same outfits and the cars are the same, but you're really racing for yourself. Is it really a team, or is it we just happen to wear the same outfits on race day?
You know what? Your teammate is your first competitor in Formula One, because he's the only guy that's got the same car as you. So it's the only point of comparison that you can. And you want to beat him. You want to beat him to have a chance to get a better seat for the future. So that's a bit of a tough one in Formula One. You know, you cannot really be friend with the guy that you spend more weekend with than you spend with your wife. So it's a tough one.
And Diplo, I want to ask you, you've obviously been Grammy nominated and you've done tons of music on your own. You've also done music with Major Lazer and collaborated. How do you decide what projects are for you and what projects are part of the group and what projects you bring in a collaborator like French?
I think I started by moving to LA. I just wanted to be a producer, and that's where you have to go. So I just sat in sessions. You know, I did Bruno Mars my first session when he was like still writing for like Flow Rider. It was such a long time ago, but you just get in these rooms, you have ideas, you play some music, you play some beats, whatever it is. And I did that for like 10 years. It's a grind. And then eventually I started releasing records as Diplo, and I saw like, oh, I can control these records. I can make it what I want to make. And you just build that brand up, and I started Major Lazer. We started doing this kind of a dance hall scene, and then, you know, LSD with Labyrinth and Sia, and then Jack U with Skrillex. I just saw like the control you have when you put your own records out, not just as a writer. And it's also financially better, you know, to have own those masters, know how to market them. So I just realized making your own projects makes more sense.
What inspires you to keep going? Right? What inspires you to, you know, Mav always says all success affords you is the opportunity to do it on a bigger platform, right? So you've made the money, you're making the money, you have the fame, you've reached the pinnacle of your sport. What inspires you to keep going?
The passion. I mean, the money helps a little bit. But I think it comes down to the passion. It got to be that thing that even when you go on vacation to get away from things, you end up doing it. You know what I'm saying? It becomes that thing that when you're trying to get away from everything that's bothering you, or you're trying to get away from life, you end up going back to that thing.
Like you're addicted to it.
Exactly. It's like, you know, it's like your own drug, your natural drug.
Got it. Roman?
Yeah, that was my word as well, passion. You know, I have a good example for it. I almost, you know, died in a race car, and all I wanted to do is 2 weeks later go back in a race car and do it again. And the day that starts going, I think race car driver, we just stop. And those guys, same thing. You know, we have an incredible life, and we're very blessed to be doing what we do, but also there's a lot of time away from the family, there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of demand, it's a lot of risk. And as long as the passion drives you, then you keep going. And, you know, there's no vacation. Even when you're on vacation, your mind is to racing. You go to the gym, you go training, you do everything you can to be better. And one day that's probably going to run out. But for now, man, full of it.
Love it.
Same thing with race car driver. I mean, the adrenaline high is so crazy. It's better than any other drug you can take. Like, you're on top of everything, and when you do a crazy show, you're finished like a peak set, say it's Burning Man, or if it's like Coachella, you got to go to bed that night. You got to turn it all down, and that's like a balance that's hard to find, whether you're a driver or a father, a parent. What we do, it's really difficult. Their lives become like this, like crazy, you know, and I think a lot of people get lost in that. So it's important to find what your motivation is and dig into that, you know, and dig into like what's more important. Is it my family, my time? Because time is, like I said, it's limited. And when he had that crash, he feel that more than anything. You know, we don't get in crashes at our concerts, but it still gets you know, time consuming. So
For sure.
But now we also get crashes. You hear about a lot of artists overdosing. You hear about a lot of artists. There's also a rush, and there's always, you know, limits, and, you know, to being a rapper, to being an artist. Because some people never had nothing as artists, and once they get into the game, they just abuse everything. You know.
Totally.
Yes.
Mental health is a real issue. I think during COVID especially, I think a lot of guys thought about it, like, what this downtime, does it feel like? Or like, what does it feel like when you're not on top of the world? Because as a musician or an actor or athlete, you're only as good as your performance, you know, and a lot of people don't realize you're a person too. So you got to find that balance. Like, you're always good enough into yourself. You should feel that way. But if a lot of the young artists, it's hard to give that advice to them, because I started later in my career, so I knew kind of like how I was comfortable as who I was. But for a young person, French is right. It's easy to see the girls, see the drugs, see the parties, you don't want it to end, and you got to find that balance.
Especially when you become the biggest money maker in your house. And your father tell you something, you'd be like, man, shut up, you ain't got no money. but when you're growing up in the hood and when you're growing up, you know what I'm saying? So you're like, we get too much power at an early age. And that's why there's a lot of artists that don't make it to the stage. Where I could be like, you know what, let me stop drinking for a little bit because, I'm getting carried away. We're doing too much. It's certain limits. And it's the same thing. We're racing through life.
Thank you to Diplo, French. Romain, thank you guys for doing this amazing.
Of course.
The shop in Las Vegas, outside, first time ever.
Yeah.